back again because our friend Senor Reyes had a lot of things to say, a lot of notes to talk about, and I'm going to be honest, I wanted to hear what was going on with it because he just kind of teased it, and I'm like, oh, come on, man. I need a little bit more. So I know we should just jump in and be like, Rise, what you got to say? But before we do that, we need to say who is actually going to be here and speaking. I am Yubi. Original?
Yeah. I'm original.
He so much is.
Yes. And Rise, just say hello, my friend.
Hey, good to be back here.
All right, so we have Rise back. And Rise, I'd like you to kick this off.
I would love to kick this off with talking about variations on Control Warriors, actually. We were talking about that a little bit before the cast, and I'd love to bounce a couple things off the original on, because we were talking about Warriors as far as we're seeing all kinds of variations on there. And what did this for me is about 2 days ago, at around rank 9 or so, I ran into the best survival warrior deck I've ever seen. It was really, it was like I was sure it was just a control warrior, and then about turn 4, turn 5, I'm like, for a control warrior, I'm not seeing a lot of minions out here. He's playing a lot of taunts. It looks like a lot like this old warrior mill deck I have. He's got weapons up the wazoo. About turn 7 or turn 8, an oracle appears. I'm like, that's the Murloc that gives you like both sides 2 extra cards. I'm like, holy crap! It's really a mill warrior. What the hell? So I'm expecting to see the young brewmaster to be able to give him more stuff. I'm expecting to see the heal bots. They never show up. I'm like, what is going on? I'm playing a warlock, so I'm already in trouble. I'm 5 cards ahead, and I'm like, this is bad news. And then what the kicker was at the end. As in, we're getting near the end of the deck, so I'm trying to take him down. He's down to like 11, 12 health. I'm down to 17. He pulls out a Gore Howl.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Like, I haven't seen a Gore Howl in a long time. He played Justicar in the middle of that, so he's getting like 4 armor every turn.
Yeah.
So all the damage is coming out. All the armor is keeping up. I cannot take this warrior down.
Yeah. Gore Howl is being used like a lot right now. Like, way too much, in my opinion. Since I hate Gore Howl personally as a warrior. I'm so bad with managing it, but it is being played a lot. There's a lot of variations with Control Warrior. There always has been, but now with so many legendaries in the game, there's a couple cards which are really being interchanged a lot. Usually you take 1 Fiery War Axe out for a Gore Howl, and then you then Sylvanas Lotheb, you can switch out for Ysera and Alexstrasza, or Alexstrasza and really interesting cards. And it's really, there's just a lot of tech cards going on right now. It's
a
really
lot of tech cards, a lot. And part of me is like,
Rise, actually, before you expand on that, what do you actually mean by tech cards? Because that might be a concept or kind of a phrase that's foreign to a lot of people.
That's a good point, and I want to make sure I get this original. Correct me if I'm off on this too. A tech card is a card that is meant for a specific situation or circumstance. So it's when you anticipate that a group of decks, something like one of my favorite tech cards is like the Kezan card.
Mystic.
Yeah, that's it. Kezan Mystic. That's a total tech card. That's a card that anticipates that the greater percentage of decks you're going to play are going to be facing secrets that are worth stealing. And there's 2 parts to that. One is, of course, you're playing secrets deck, which means that you're anticipating playing a disproportionate amount of hunters, mages, and paladins. And that 2, that it's even that for whatever reason that the secrets that they're going to be playing, it's worth getting out of their hands. Usually, it's more important getting it out of their hands than it is getting it into yours. So a Kezan is a perfect example of a tech card where not statistically, where you're looking at it like, it's only 3 out of 8 classes. Not all mages run a lot of secrets. Hunters tend to, for sure. Paladins, give or take, yeah, there's a lot of secret pallies out there. Normally you'd say no, but for the meta right now, it's secrets everywhere. Yeah. So having a Kezan in your deck makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so I'm going to expand on it. There's 2 types of tech cards. There's active techs and reactive techs. Example of an active tech is Sylvanas in Lothab, where you play that a turn ahead, or, well, Sylvanas is big, but...
Well, couldn't Sylvanas be both?
Yeah, Sylvanas is both, definitely both. Since you can play it previously if they have a lot of people on their field in an anticipation, or you can play it as a tech card, for example, Sylvanas Brawl, to get that. But then there's 3 active techs, which are like a mind control tech. It literally has tech in its name.
Yeah, right.
Where it steals
if there's a tech in its name, it might be a tech card.
It has the three more than 4 minions or whatever, and you steal minions. You have Keysan Mystic, you have Big Game Hunter, cards like that. And there's just been an influx of these cards. I mean, they've always been good, for sure. But I think that I really like Keysan Mystic. Great example, because Secret Paladin and even mid-range Hunter right now, or Control Hunter, use a lot of secrets, so it's really strong against them.
All right, there's so many things I would like to talk about. But since you brought up the Secret Pally, I don't think Keysan Mystic really has a lot to do with where this conversation is going to go. But Rise, please tell me your thoughts on Keysan Mystic, and even more importantly, how do you deal with it?
With the Keysan Mystic, I mean your Secret Pally.
Yes, I'm sorry. The Secret
Let me tell you how you don't deal with the Secret Pally. Keysan Mystic.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Keysan Mystic is pretty useful with the Secret Pally as itself, which is to say it's not a waste. But Secret Pally gets a lot of attention right now because in some ways it's like the new Rush deck. It's the let's throw everything in the kitchen sink at you. There is a lot of synergy in the deck, and all of a sudden, blammo, 5 secrets out of your deck on the field, and it's supposed to be this huge deal. And I'm not buying it. Like, I really don't struggle with Secret Pallies in this game, particularly because they're ridiculously predictable. And here's the reason why. Once you play the Mysterious Challenger, and you pull, there's only so many Pally secrets that can go, right? The secrets, once this Mysterious Challenger is out there, and you got 3, 4, maybe 5 secrets sitting there on your opponent, they're always going to fire off in the same order. Always. You're always going to get Noble Sacrifice first, which is then going to go trigger the Avenge, which gives somebody the 3/2 buff, and then you're going to get Redemption for the Noble Sacrifice that died. It's always going to happen. If the Secret Pally messes up, let me back up a second. If you've got somewhat decent board control, there's a good chance that that Avenge is going to land on the Mysterious Challenger and take him into Big Game Hunter range. Or some other big clear. If it's a couple out there, then you know... Because the secrets are predictable, it's almost like you can build your minion choice as a counter on the way to getting there. You know that the whole point of a Secret Pally deck is to play as few secrets as possible, to keep those just so you can get the Challenger to pull as many out as possible if you're lucky enough to get it on turn 6 or a little after. That is the whole thing of that deck. Yes, there's synergy with people who are using Secret Keepers here and there. There's a couple of synergies in the deck. You know, it's just like, say that again?
Knife Juggler, Murlocs.
Yeah, Knife Jugglers, you got Murlocs, and you've got your... Plus they throw in the... I just blanked out. What is it? You get the 3/1/1s? Muster. You get the Muster in there, and you get some... I mean, it's not a bad deck, but it plays... It's like Face Hunter. It plays the same pretty much all the time, and because it's so predictable, all it takes is a couple of tech cards to be able to put a Secret Pally back down. And one of which is my favorite, the Ironbeak Owl.
Yeah.
These secrets, and especially with the buffs that they play, with the 4/4 buff, that I can't think of the name of either. Why can't I think of these things? You get an Ironbeak Owl or 2 in there, and a Secret Pally. All those buff cards, you're knocking out 2 or 3 buff cards with one shot with one owl. If the only way a Secret Pally really gets successful is if they're already in a winning position by the time the Mysterious Challenger comes out. So I feel like that Secret Pally, it's a lot of flash, and it's exciting because yanking 5 cards out of your deck at once looks pretty tremendous. But because it plays the same each time, I feel like once that pattern gets figured out, Secret Pally is going to be seen for the gimmick that it is. And it's just not going to have the same strength.
there was something I was going to respond to that, but original, I feel like you kind of have something bubbling up.
Not really.
All right, well then I have this to say then. It's since in the past few metas, there's been a little bit of the mill style. And we've seen some cards like Gang Up that we thought were going to be insane in certain ways, and they didn't necessarily work out in such a manner. But then you see a card like Cold Flight Oracle, it's like, oh Christ, just that little thing is insane. What if you kind of figured out this weird little medium where you had a warrior, let's say Rise. I don't know. Let's just go warrior. That sounds good, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you almost tricked someone else into just doing a lot of card draw. What do you think about that?
I think it happened about 48 hours ago. And there's an opportunity for that in this meta now, because we have things like control warriors that are so strong, and because we do have a lot of secret pallies, we do have some new demon lock decks on the board, we do have some mid-range hunters. There's a big opportunity now to be able to take, and I'm starting to see this on the ladder, where old school decks are coming back with just a couple of nice little twists to them, where that looks like, because we're used to this new meta in very short order, it looks like one thing, and all of a sudden, surprise, that's not how the deck works at all. Just really close to it. And then, like, oh, this is a different game than I thought it was, and I'm not in the right place at all. That's that happened with me. That's happened with me with the warrior deck that played against me, where I'm like, oh, it's a control warrior deck, and then like, on turn 7 pops in, and I'm like, there is no oracle in a control warrior deck ever. What the hell am I facing? But it also happened to me with a hunter deck, where I got used to the fact that, you know, face hunters are kind of going away for a while, or so I thought. It's all these mid-range hunters that are coming in.
Oh, don't burst my bubble.
I'm totally bursting your bubble, man. So face hunters are on the way back, and they're on the way back with doing the little things like making little adjustments, like putting Brave Archer in. One of the problems with face hunter is that you run out of cards in your mid game. Not even in your like late game. In your mid game, if you're playing it right and you're going crazy, turn 6, 7, 8, you're out of cards. If you got a couple of Brave Archers on the field where you do your hero power and they add on basically the equivalent of your hero power on top of that, that's a lot of face damage at the very end.
Let's give a second. Like, what do Brave Archers actually do?
So, go ahead.
So basically, it's Inspire. If your hand is empty and you use your hero power with it on the field, it'll do double your hero power.
So you do 2 damage as a hunter off your hero power, and then the Brave Archer, just one of them, and you can have 2, will add in another 2 damage. And then, so if you've got 3, like when I was facing a face hunter where these 2 just appeared, all of a sudden I've got 6 damage going straight to my face with an empty hand on the hunter side.
Yeah.
Clearly intentionally, where it's like this hunter dumped a card that was totally the wrong player, so I thought, I'm like, oh, this face hunter done, and all of a sudden, Brave Archers? What, a movie reference? Really? And then blammo, 6 to the face.
In what movie reference is that?
Brave.
So stuff like, I'm seeing stuff like that show up. We used to see Wolf Riders in face hunter decks, and instead the what's it called? The Argent Horse Rider, which is a 2/1 with a bubble, where it's got a shield. It doesn't hit as hard as the Wolf Rider, but in a lot of cases it doesn't need to. The fact that it sticks around after the first hit, unlike the Wolf Rider, when you're going against minions, it's kind of a different way to approach a face hunter that they didn't have that option before. You didn't have a 2/1 charge that was going to stick around for a second shot. So it's not necessarily better or worse. It's this little twist on there that makes a face hunter. It gives face hunter options that they didn't have before, which is to say, it gives a hunter aggro deck options that it didn't have before. And then the last thing I'd say that I mentioned is, I loved running Flare when I was doing face hunter. Yes, I used to do face hunter, and if there was ever a meta as a hunter when you need to run Flare, this is it.
Well, it's like, you know, we talk about all the new cards and all the old cards and all the different combinations that can exist. And it really does come down to the fact, especially when we do Gums Rise, And God forbid you make a deck and you have a hoot bird in it. I mean, it sounds crazy, but you have a 2/1, but you have the choice of the silence. I mean, how many times has that one single card decided a game?
Decided a game. Like, that's not an exaggeration in the least.
It isn't.
Bird wins games. Ironbeak Owl wins games.
And it's... I kind of think back to when I first started playing Hearthstone, and it's like the Chillwind Yeti. It's, 4/5, has no card text, so I'm just brand new, as big a noob as you can possibly be to playing a card-based game. I'm like, oh, there's no card text. It doesn't count as anything that's worthwhile.
It's not a real card. There's no words on it.
Dude, it's worthless. There are other cards that have like these cool little things that can happen. I'm like, I'm not going to use that. And then you go on and you play and you're like, okay, wait a second. One, Priest can't fuck with it, which at the beginning of things was a big deal. You know, it's got the 4. I feel as things have progressed, we have so many new cards that have been introduced and so many different ways to do things that it's very easy to forget that, oh, this one very on the face value innocuous card can literally be the difference between you going from rank X to rank Y or Z or anything like that.
Or plus, seriously.
Yeah.
Seriously, by 1 or 2 cards. It's that it can make that much of a difference. And I really want to emphasize for people who are looking to make a difference in the ladder. When you're looking to climb up the ladder, the higher you get, it gets kind of weird. 1 or 2 cards in your deck, depending on the current layer of sediment, that's why I feel like when I'm going up the ladder, it's like, okay, I'm at this rank right now, this is the current layer that I'm in, this is almost the meta of the layer. Certain cards will make a huge difference in where you are on the ladder just because that's where things are playing at the time. And that segues into something I wanted to ask you about, Original. I haven't run what's it called? The acidic swamp ooze, the one that takes away the weapon of your opponent, for a while. But I've been running it for like a week and a half now because the most prevalent decks I've seen all over the place are Pallies, Warriors, Hunters. And you'd think like that would apply to a rogue, but it seems like nobody's playing a rogue right now. But just like for whatever reason, I'm not running into shamans, which I don't get because everyone talks about the totem shamans. Pallies, warriors, hunters, all over the place. It's like if I don't run with an acidic swamp ooze, or I guess more specifically, when I do run with it, it's such a surprise to the people that I play that it's almost like it throws their game off. Yeah. And that one card, am I crazy on that, or are you seeing the same thing where it's just like there's weapons everywhere?
I've never had to really deal with that since I have actually never faced it, and I also don't really play decks which use that. The only deck I actually really use is Control Warrior, and if you're going to destroy my Death Spite, then I'll just kill out your minions, you know? But yeah, I do know what you're saying. It did happen to me when I was dabbling in mid-range Hunter. It doesn't really affect you since you don't really rely on weapons, you're relying like clearing the board. But I did find it interesting since I did see it being played a little bit, yeah, for sure.
So is this a possible point where you could put Harrison Jones back into the meta?
No.
That's one of those things I want to say yes, but all these weapons are 2 durability weapons. They're not higher than that, and they're going to use it most likely on the first time, which means at best you're getting 1 card out of Harrison Jones, so it's not worth the draw.
God forbid you have the Gore Fiend where it's just the 1. It's like,
ugh.
Well, it's worth it though, since you do want to get rid of that 7-1. But
I mean, if there were a bunch more locks running around with Jiraxis, or if there were more rogues running around with the 3/4 weapon, you know, maybe. But neither. They're pretty sparse these days.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward though. I think that in the future we'll be seeing a lot more lock in the next expansion for sure because of the new cards which were released in TGT. They really buffed Demon Lock, like to insane levels. If you see the new cards, for example, you can Bane of Doom into like Dread Steed, and then the new like 7/11 11 plus. Like, yeah, I think that Demon Lock will be really crazy.
Yeah,
soon.
I think it's a really good call. Originally, you're spot on. I think Demon Lock is the underplayed, underreported class, right? Class and spec right now, if you will. That we're going to see more of that.
Lock, for sure.
Well,
I gotta get Mike Malganis.
This is a good thing that you guys point out, because you guys both play at the very high end of the ladder. And these are things that you guys haven't seen yet, but it's like, are you guys just kind of anticipating like it's only a matter of time before this presents itself?
I think we've been pretty accurate on predictions. Like, when I said at least that mid-range Hunter would be good, and it's definitely top tier right now. I thought Shaman would be better than it is, and Control Warrior's obviously top tier.
You called
I don't think
Hunter.
anyone really suspected that Dragon Priest would be so strong, stuff like that. Like, some of these decks are just above and beyond what you thought possible. I've been seeing a lot of Mage recently, even though I don't think it's very good.
Yeah, that happens every once in a while. Like, a deck will come and go in a fad, and it's all its variations, and I'll be like, I see what you're trying to do, but I don't think it's as good. And that's how I feel about Secret Pally, actually, where it's like Secret Pally looks awesome, it flashes a lot. It's not that it's bad; it's a good deck.
No,
don't get me
yeah, like sometimes you just like win instantly. Like, your hand is just so insane, you win instantly.
There it is.
But I feel like you can do that with pretty much any deck right now.
That's a good way of putting it, actually. There's a lot of decks out there where if you get the right mulligan, it's really hard to come back when you've got your first 4 turns just laid out for you perfectly.
A good example is Control Warrior. You get Fiery War Axe, Cruel Taskmaster, and like a Shield Slam or something on your mulligan, and then you just win. Because like every card you draw is just high cost. But it goes for the reverse when you're playing versus a Secret Paladin, and they just get the most insane hand you'll ever see in your life. I feel like it's just so, I don't want to say unbalanced, but it's a little weird how like important Mulligan is right now.
But is it not at the same time imbalanced yet balanced? And I say that because of what Rise you said to me the other day. If you're playing the Secret Pally deck and you get all 5 of your secrets played at the same time, you instantaneously get 5 cards completely removed from your deck.
It just yanks it right out, yep.
And this is going to, I guess, kind of sound weird, but I'm like, I never really thought of that. And I also never really thought how that plays into how you should go into that pally. I hate using the word play again, but that you're playing against. Because in a sense, I mean, I feel like it should. Because if you're going through and, you start with 30 cards, right? Mm-hmm. You have a dude that one card takes away, 1/6 of their deck? And then you're going forward, it's like, yeah. If you're playing a class that could heal or effective health or just survive, I mean, you're at a huge advantage.
So there it is. Absolutely. That's when I think people underestimate both card draw and the value per card for decks like that. Mm-hmm. So you're a Secret Pally, you yank the equivalent of 6 or 7 cards depending on when you play your Mysterious Challenger and what you play it with and so forth. I mean, that happens in 1 turn. Worst thing for a Secret Pally is to face a Mill Druid. Mm-hmm. I mean, when I was playing a Mill Druid, the biggest problem I had was trying to make sure I had enough cards just to keep up with the fact that the draw was so far ahead on the Secret Pally that as long as I was able to withstand the Mysterious Challenger and the stuff that came with, which for a Mill Druid it's not hard to do. I mean, it just wasn't a chance. That game was over. It was like that game was over as fast as a Face Hunter game, which to me is bizarre. A Mill Druid game should take like half an hour. No, it took like 7 minutes against a Secret Pally.
Well, it's like you have so much of your deck just gone. I never even thought of that. And like we were talking about in the cast last week, where they were having the Nosdormo thing, where it's like, oh yeah, everyone's they're fucked because the joust mechanic doesn't work. God forbid. And I even made this joke. It's like I could have made a Hot Pocket, come back. And the Pally secrets are still fucking popping.
It's still funny the second time around because it's true. It's absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean,
it really
all
is.
The animation is still going on. It's just like, oh my gosh. And that's part of the trade-off. And I think people are going to find ways to figure out how to balance that in their deck. Not necessarily as a mill deck, but you'll see things like a survival warrior that's like, you know what? Secret Pally just went ape crazy. Blammo, here's a brawl.
Yeah.
The brawl wipes out the board. That's 6 cards down the drain for the Secret Pally. Second Mysterious Challenger comes out, probably yanks out 4 more secrets. You know, it's just like you can lose half your deck in 2 turns if things don't work out for a Secret Pally.
Okay, can I ask you guys a question? Because this is actually making me think of this, and it might be completely left field. But you know how sometimes I go balls to the wall with my decks?
Yeah.
And I put in that Fell Reaver thing?
Yeah.
Is it more insane to play a Fell Reaver than to put all of your marbles into the fact that 2 cards are going to put 10 cards?
It totally depends what you would face, I would say. Because as soon as you said Fell Reaver deck, I'm like, you know the deck I want to play if you play a Fell Reaver? I want to play a Secret Pally.
Well, yeah, because yes, if you do that, but you also know I have the Earth.
I think...
Yeah. But it's just being able to play a bunch of 1-mana cards that will burn through a
Oh, Christ. Actually, I
deck.
didn't think of that. Yes, that would be the,
only
antithesis
real...
of something good to do.
Yeah.
Yes.
But your point
only...
stands, right? Go ahead, Undershield. Go ahead.
No. Yeah, I think Fell Reaver is only good in Mage and Shaman, and Mech Shaman and Mech Mage, because you're able to get it out early, and you have the sustain to be able to win without it. Just because of the card, your normal hero cards.
So there's a great point there. I think that's the main thing right there. It's not that it's a Fell Reaver deck. It's just that the Fell Reaver may be the centerpiece, but it's not the only part of the deck. And that's why your balls to the wall deck for your Chamois Yubi is a big deal. Because if for whatever reason the Fell Reaver gets knocked down right off the bat, you lose 6 cards, whatever gets burnt. But it's not like you're done. It's not a gimmick deck. There's still a lot more to go because it's a mech deck. There's still a lot of synergy left in the deck. And you can do that with a Chamois. You can do that with a Mage. You can't really do that with... that's part of what I feel like I'm seeing in some other decks where it's all... because at the beginning of TGT, and we kind of talked about this last week, you can't build a deck around just one thing, or even just 2 things.
Yeah. Because
that means that if that 1 or 2 things get neutralized, you really don't have a lot left to fall back on, and that's
with
why.
the exception of decks like Grim Patron Warrior, because you just have you have enough to deal with it. You know, I think that's one of the other decks.
I don't know. That might be. That's a really good point. Problem is, just like if you took out. I'll say this: Grim Patron Warrior. That's probably
the exception because it's the only deck in the game which can actually 30 to 0.
Yeah, there it is. It's a one-shot kill deck. You can actually do it that way. But even with that said, people will... If you took out Grim Patron out of a lot of people's patron decks, they still have a lot of things like the guy that builds up to 15 or 16 I can't think of the name of right now. What's that guy that you almost killed me with?
Oh, Christ. There's...
Frothy Berserker.
Frothing Berserker. I've killed Bam on Frothing Berserker on turn 2.
I believe it.
Which sounds ridiculous. You're just kind of like, you coin into a couple of spinnies. If there's against guys, just like, what the hell? Yeah, absolutely. So there's opportunities like that, and I guess, so yeah. I mean, much as the problem is like, yeah, Patron Warrior could probably do it, but I'd say that's the exception that proves the rule. I can't think of any other decks that can possibly be able to make that kind of like, we're going to build it all around one thing, and that's going to be the success of the deck.
Oh no! Another one's Freeze Mage. But that's because you can last the entire game and base it off of villain.
And again, that brings up Bam, so...
Okay!
But no, you're right, because I mean, the Doomsayer and all that shit. God damn it.
But again, that's only because you have, class abilities, which are an exception.
Yeah, and it's a succession of stuff. Like, there's no one thing about a Freeze Mage that makes it stand out as far as, I need this one thing to make the deck work. It's the whole deck. It's the whole thing. It's everything they do.
Alex,
time and time again,
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so we kind of talked about it, but we didn't really dial down on it. I really would like to know, and since you've kind of been avoiding this, Original, the whole thoughts on Inspire. I mean, we've been doing this. This is a real thing. The Inspire mechanic. You've kind of said what you think. You kind of haven't, but you really kind of dodged it a lot.
I don't like Inspire because it messes up your curves so much. And, like, I feel like you could, with the exception of some cards, just because, like, they're insane, even without Inspire. And, like, or the Inspire risk is so much, I feel like it's better to just play, like, normal cards. When I say normal cards, I mean, like, Battle Cry, Death Rattle, stuff like that. Or just, like, not Inspire cards. Or just, like, there's so many TGT cards which can take its place. Like, wait, Rise, what cards in top-tier decks use Inspire? The answer is 0.
One.
There's,
like,
one. There's, like, Paladin. Because, like,
yeah, exactly, the Paladin, the
like,
Murloc with Knight.
That's the only reason they play that is because they need something to not make it a gimmick deck. And that itself, like, it's not even, like, that great. I think that it's fun, but I think that the curve just messes you up so much that I don't think it's worth it. Unless you make a deck completely based off it, and unless you play cards which are, like, just strong in general, I don't think it's very strong. Like, a good example, that's what I'm gonna say.
I want to say that, like, I want to say it's early yet, and one of the things about Inspire is that because the mana curve of Inspire cards by definition is 2 mana higher than the rest of Hearthstone, it's in a strange spot where by definition it's doing something. I won't say by definition. A lot of Inspire cards are add-on stuff. So it's like, okay, you do an inspiration, you're pulling up an extra 1/1 silver hand guy, or you're getting some. It's always that little bit extra that the Inspire gives you. But because you do get something extra, most of the source cards that have Inspire as a mechanic can't be that strong, and they shouldn't be. Otherwise, they'd be overpowered. Yeah. And that's I get that.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things where it's like, as it is now, it's, like, good, but it's not great. But as time goes on, it'll just become obscenely overpowered, sort of like Deathlord or something like that.
I feel like Inspire's a mid-range mechanic, basically. It's like you can use it in late game, but it doesn't necessarily, it hasn't been, and this is where the opportunity is. For late game decks, there's opportunities to figure out where do Inspire cards combo well with other cards in other decks, and I haven't seen a lot of that yet. Inspire, I don't think, is a good early game mechanic because most of the Inspire cards I see either have too little benefit for the cost of using them, or rely too much on RNG. They rely too much on luck to make them worthwhile.
I'm looking through, and I just can't see any Inspire cards to try to actually play. Like, with the exception of Paladin, like, there's nothing else.
Wait, you know what? I should qualify this. This is for ranked play or casual play, something like that. I would say something very different for arenas. Arenas fundamentally work differently.
Completely different.
Yeah, and
even for casual play, like, you can have fun with, like, I was gonna talk about Totem Shaman. Like, I don't even think Totem Shaman needs Inspire, even though, like, it obviously, that's another exception. But that's a gimmick deck, so I don't really want to.
Fair enough.
But yeah,
well, I stopped playing Shaman just because it was gonna be whatever.
But Inspire in general, it doesn't have the reliability that you need in a good card. Like, is it a good card? Yeah, but there's just so many cards which you can need, which is better. And, like, you can say, oh, but it's a 3-drop Inspire, but, like, every single high mana cost card is so competitive. Every slot, like 5-drop, 6-drop, 7-drop, all of those are so competitive. Like, 5-drop is obviously the most competitive spot. Like, you need Sludge Belcher, Emperor, and stuff like that. But
so many good things in there. Like,
it's just, you can't, like, say, oh, I'm going to give you, in turn for giving up a Loatheb, I'm going to take +2 attack on my hero. Which is actually, like, an Inspire.
Yeah.
So
that's a nice Inspire, actually.
It is.
The Druid Inspire.
Again, that's a good. Is it a good Inspire? Is it a good card? Yes, but because there's so many other good cards, like, it sort of shies away until a later date when it becomes more relevant.
I would say that. I would say there's opportunity for Inspire to have a spot, but right now it's not, if you'll forgive me for saying so, as inspired as it could be.
Same with Joust is completely different though. Actually, Joust is just bad in general. I think like there's no. I even played a deck which is based completely around Joust, and basically it just has like 20 out of 30 cards which are 8 mana cost or higher, and you still lose the Joust. So that's
I was going to say that would be a late game deck, and you just kind of broke my heart there. I'm just like, really? Yeah. It just sucks to. RNG, that's one of the things. Like, there's fun things in Hearthstone that are RNG based. I would say they're fun. They do a good job with that. But one of the. You want to be real careful in relying on RNG because that can get frustrating. And I say that as somebody who my favorite lock deck uses the knife throwers. And that is, a lot of people will refuse to use those.
Yeah, but there's just a huge difference when it's something like Joust. You're taking the chance up, for example, what's the one? The 1 mana, a Gadget Stand Jouster. If you win the Joust, you become, it's a zombie chow with no fallbacks. But if you lose the Joust,
exactly.
If you lose the Joust, you're a useless one too.
Yeah, I mean, the penalties for losing are so, which they should be, but it's very extreme.
It's just like not good in competitive play. On the other hand, again, in arena.
Well, and this is also why Rise. I think you'll remember this when we tried to get Nikosi to play, and he was like, it was a good 30 seconds to a minute of just kind of like, oh, I don't know what the fuck. I can't deal with this ring. And I'm like, what the fuck, man? We deal with ring in Warcraft all the time.
It's too much, though. Like,
it's too much.
You can play Master Jouster. It's +1/+1 from Sunwalker. Basically, it's exactly the same. If you win the Joust, you get Taunt Divine Shield. It's a 5/6. But if you lose the Joust, you're gambling a +1/+1 for literally losing the game.
Yeah.
But if you win the Joust, you're so far ahead.
Go Raz.
Originally, you're spot on. In World of Warcraft, crit as a stat is all RNG. It's what are the chances are that you're going to hit for double damage as an offensive class. And during an arena fight or during a battleground and so forth, it can be a deciding factor. But in that context, there's so much more going on that you need to make yourself successful with on the battlefield or in an arena than just whether or not you crit 3 times in a row. In Hearthstone, if you're relying on the Joust mechanic, even if a couple of them come through really well, all you have to have is one botched Joust. And you basically played the equivalent of something that's not even a white card. Like one of the base cards in the game that really doesn't...
Oh, Christ. Can you be like, I know I was great at the Joker and shit kind of ended, but I was super good in that one movie that was actually based on jousting.
I'm just like... You could have an Uwe Boll moment in Hearthstone with one Joust.
Whoa! You went Uwe Boll.
Yeah.
I've heard that, right?
I'm just saying.
Okay, and...
It's pretty accurate.
I don't think you know exactly what that is, original. But we're going to go forward on
I mean,
that.
I'm just going off of...
I mean, we can go Blood Rain, and we can go... every movie that's been amazingly so bad that you can't even...
to like Ubisoul by bringing that reference out. He's just like, oh, it's a good day now.
Oh, I know Uwe Boy.
So there it is, right? Hearthstone's got, and I want to be clear, it's not that jousting cards can't find a place in a deck. They just don't have a place right now. And
so that's the difference between Inspire and Joust.
Like, yes, thank
you. Inspire at one point will be good and will be used, and already is good and already is being used. But
I mean,
Joust will just like not be played ever.
But how dumb is it to say like, oh, this is this, this is that?
Yeah.
Well, right now I think it's pretty sharp. Right now I think it's spot on. But right now that's like saying what this week's meta is. You know, ask again next week. We'll see if somebody came up with a miracle Joust deck.
And especially since how long have we been able to actually break this down? And like, original, you're telling me like, God, this fucking mid-range hunter is balls to the wall. It's really good. I'm talking to Rise. He's like, Jesus, sweet titty Christ. I think I have a certain piece to the end of the puzzle of my warrior stanchion. I mean, like, there's
so
still
about that
so much to figure out. And to just... Alright, sorry, go.
No, actually, I hear what you're saying. Where it's like, you know, to trash on Joust. To be like, all right, Joust is a waste. Joust doesn't have a place here. It sounds pretty premature. I'm not going to lie. Like, it sounds like, wow, that's kind of jumping the gun. For the same reason that I think original, you were spot on about the mid-range hunter. It's not that Joust can't find a place, but Inspire's going to find a much stronger place long before Joust becomes a thing. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
Oh,
like, there's a lot of cards that were freaking much just but useless for a couple of expansions, and all of a sudden they show up in TGT where it's like, why did that? Who is playing the 5/5 Stealth Tiger? Really? I haven't seen that since I was playing against the Innkeeper when I was trying to figure out how this game worked.
Yeah.
And now here it is in mid-range hunter decks, and it's a great card. Same type of thing, where Joust right now, it's not even strong. Like, it's just too much RNG. You can have some fun in there, but, you know, hey, there's not a place for it right now. And I don't think there's going to be a place for it in a couple of weeks. That doesn't.
I don't think it'll be place for it until at least next expansion. If
next expansion, you know? And maybe someone will find some neat stuff, or maybe someone will make use of a jousting card. Or
No, you know
like
what
that.
I guarantee? And you guys can tell me I'm wrong when the next expansion drops. I guarantee someone figures out a way to make it clever and make it work. And you guys are like, God damn it.
I hope you're right. It would be so
I hope so too.
There's going to be a way. There's no... See, this is why, like... And it's something that you'd like to give me shit for, original. And it's like, I'm looking at the priest cards, I'm like, oh, that motherfucker put some dragons in there. I'm like, okay, I will try and update that. Right? Because I'm like, oh, god damn it, they said... Like, I take that as the point of, like, all right, they're just saying, just try. Whatever. And if you actually take it to, like, what you guys are doing and going further and doing some shit, it's like, god damn it, things are gonna happen. And you guys...
You know, that is true. I think, and I will say that as much as I think it's going to be a while before Joust makes any kind of an impact in any, what I would call real deck, that's not just a funsy deck. And I love my funsy decks, believe me. I have a whole stable of mill decks, and those are just funsy decks. But there's I've seen the reemergence of enough cards to know that it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. I'm thoroughly convinced it's going to be a long when for Joust, but it's going to be, we'll see Joust put in there somewhere.
But you have to think, like, you'd bring it back to the priest thing. Like, if they put the dragon in there, like, come on, they want something like that to happen. They put in that mechanic, they're hoping someone's going to do that.
Yeah, Blizzard has never, in Hearthstone, in my experience, ever abandoned, like, a certain concept or a certain way of doing things. Be like, you know, that just didn't work,
They're
so
not
we're gonna let it
fucking
go.
retards. I mean,
No,
as much
absolutely
as,
not.
like, we want to talk shit, they're smarter than us.
Yeah, they really have got, like, they know that. And they track that stuff, too, where it's like, well, this card didn't quite work out the way we thought it would. And I'm sure they look back at their stable of stuff, they'd be like, you know, if we just add in this whole Inspire mechanic thing here, Warriors are going to go back to using their weapons. Like, I mean, they use a lot of them, but now they're going to go crazy with them. Let's go see.
Yeah, I feel like that card, I know what you're talking about. I feel like at one point we'll see a weapons... weapons
it's
warrior.
not inconceivable to see an all-weapons warrior.
For sure.
Bryce, you want to expand on that?
They're between the Justicar improving the hero power of warriors from 2 armor to 4 armor a shot per hero power. That's only 2 mana, right? And adding bash in, where you're wiping out minions left and right being for all 2 bash cards you have, 3 damage, and you get 3 more armor. So you've got lots of opportunities to gain armor, lots of opportunities to leverage shield slam on top of that. Your armor's pouring in, your weapon damage is going out, and you get a lot of weapon value out of a warrior. I mean, it's weapons. You're hitting somebody for 2 mana. You can basically get the equivalent of almost like a 6/2 minion. It's guaranteed to die in 2 turns. But blammo, that fiery axe, boom, boom. right out the door.
I thought the
Knocking stuff
Gorfiend
out.
was one of the most impressive things ever, especially
my
when
God.
you put in the 6/3 Justicar on that.
It's that to me. That's
And-
going my warrior deck right there. I mean, seriously, you have Gorfiend. It's 7/1. If the person does not have some way to get rid of your weapon, I tell you what. Here's the thing right there. So a card nobody ever plays, right? That pirate that does 1 weapon damage. What's that? 1/2 pirate, right?
Yeah, but no one's
Yeah.
gonna play that realistically.
No,
Yeah.
people play it already.
Yeah,
And,
it's already. I haven't seen it. It's got to happen. There's enough weapons in the game that if you don't want to run the acid guy, what was his name?
The acid guy is
Acid
different than the
swampers.
pirate that just says.
Yeah, the pirate. What if you don't need to blow up a weapon? What if you know that the weapon's only going to have 1 damage on it? I mean, come on, durability on it.
Sure.
Play a 1 mana pirate. Blammo, that weapon's out the door. Any weapon is out the door for most people to play. I've just said that. I'm like, you know what? I need to dump all my acid oozes and go with the pirate. Actually, there it is. So I'm like, that to me that's where. When you look at the meta and you see things change like that, you're like, well, there's enough weapons pouring out of the game that I need to carry that. And even on top of that, the Warriors can be like, you just blew up my Gorefiend's, my Gore Howl. Hey, look, here's my second Gore Howl.
Yeah.
But how cool is this that you and Original can just play completely different shits, still get super high on the ranks, and then talk about meta like, man, I didn't even know what the fuck you're talking about. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, oh shit!
Yeah.
Yep, that's a tribute to the game itself right there.
Yeah.
There it is. And I mean, those are the moments that I really enjoy, which contrast with the moments that are like, now, Ralph, where I just know to expect crap coming my way in certain situations. Like, if you're playing, I'm playing now, I get on the ladder, if I see a druid, I know that within the first 2 turns, I must have something ready. I have to have something ready to take down the Darnassus Aspirant that's going to show up turn 2 or turn 3. I have to. Because if I don't have something ready for that, extra mana comes in, then the 4/3 Shredder pops in with the big bot that's one of the best cards in the game, and I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. That's how a druid plays. That's where it is.
We did talk about that in the first cast of the night, right?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, did you? You already bet that one. So this is a common experience we've shared then. It's like, druid? That means Darnassus Aspirant.
Yeah. Darnassus Aspirant. That card is so good.
It's crazy because when everything just was first coming out, Original was like, dude, this card's great. This card's great. But that was one that he singled out like, dude, this shit is whoa, crazy. Like, holy fuck, this card's good.
It's good.
It's a
like,
mini version of
I think it'll be a permanent card.
Yeah.
Druid
It's
from now on.
a mini. That's the thing. It's not even like a legendary. Not that it should be for what it is, but it's a mini Emperor Thaurissan for the time that it's out there until you kill it. And it's and that's the thing. Unlike Emperor Thaurissan, you can't silence it because that totally defeats the purpose of what that card is for. Until you kill that card off, it's the equivalent of your next play early on in the game getting a 1 mana knocked off the price.
Yeah.
It's the same type of thing there. And it happens turn 2 or turn 3. It's like being able to jump from the equivalent of turn 2 to turn 4, or God forbid, turn 3 to turn 5. Yeah. Oh my God. That is so much trouble. That card, like that's, and you have to anticipate that. The druid shows up like, oh, you're playing for the wild, and you're like, oh crap, this mulligan better work out.
Yeah.
Of course, as much as I shoot my mouth off about that, it's like, or you could have a pre-show up and be like, oh, it's a dragon deck.
Yeah.
How do you guys think about actually taking this 3-hour-long podcast to an end?
I think that's for the best.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Rise, why don't you put a bow on it?
My bow is that we are deep into the new expansion, deep being a good 3 weeks solid in, and we're really starting to see some synergies come up out of what TGT has to offer, not just on its own, but in combination with some of the old cards out there. Part of that makes for some very predictable outcomes, as in the case of what turn 2 or 3 is for a druid, or what Secret Pally looks like, or what a priest is going to be playing. But part of it also is the possibility of getting totally surprised by new twists on old ideas. And that's part of what keeps this game so fresh.
Yeah. I'm going to say that I'll be farming up to play some new decks, since I need to still try out more and more decks, since I think that
Amen.
there are a lot of decks which are good, and I want
This is
to play
the time
them
to do it.
a lot. Yes. That's
All
all I
right.
got.
Well, there's